A very, very good evening. It's 8:30 right here in the Netherlands. If you're in the US, it's a bit earlier. So, a couple of things going on. So, I decided to make a spontaneous podcast today with my very good friend Joachim Dekkers, who is a pioneer and let's say, lobbyist for UAP awareness in the Netherlands. He had the first talk in Dutch Parliament on UAP just a day ago, and we're going to talk, of course, current events like the Alaska UAP. Not sure what it is, but we'll talk about it. So, without further ado, let me introduce you guys to Joachim Dekkers. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi Max, good to see you. How are you?
I'm great. So for the viewers, of course, me and Joachim, we're Dutch, but for you guys, we're going to speak English.
Yeah.
so, which is weird because we were just talking Dutch for like 10 minutes in the backstage of the online studio over here. But so Joachim, let's go straight to the point. You had a very special moment, I guess, in Dutch UAP history. You addressed Parliament. Please, sir, take it away. What happened?
Thank you. Well, if you allow me, then I can first introduce the UIP coalition in the Netherlands,
Of course, of
because
course.
otherwise the people are not gonna know what happened. Since 2019, I've been active in the UAP area here in the Netherlands, and during that time period, I found out that there are a lot of people active in the area, but they're all basically acting like islands. Everybody's working alone, and that's not good in my humble opinion. Especially on the UIP topic, we need to work together. It ascends above any political view, so it can bring the world together. And I decided to start small here in the small country of the Netherlands. So I founded the UIP coalition last year. And what we do is we focus on professionals who are active or have been active in aviation, armed forces, or the police. And we have several goals because we believe that after 44 years, it's important that our government starts to take our professionals seriously if they want to report UAP. So what we want to do is create a protocol and reporting possibilities for those professionals, which are actually recognized by the Dutch government. And we want to help destigmatize the subject. And also we want to work together with organizations who have similar goals. So at the moment we have four, with myself included, highly motivated volunteers, and yeah, we're just trying to achieve these goals. So what we've been doing is we've been writing a lot of letters to the Dutch government, trying to raise awareness on the UAP topic, but also explain to them why it's important that we need a protocol for our professionals, that we need to take them
So,
seriously, and that we need to destigmatize the topic. And
let me just ask you a
yeah,
question in between. How
yeah.
with all the letter writing, the FOIA requests, how were you perceived by these government organizations or the people who you have been trying to reach out to?
Well, mostly what you get is what any organization or person receives when they write to a government in any country, which is basically, we received your letter or we received your message, and if we want to do anything with it, then we will, and if we don't, then we don't. And usually it just, they get so many messages and letters, it just ends up somewhere in a pile, and it's forgotten.
Right.
Um, but this is to be expected. Even in a small country as the Netherlands, we almost, how many people do we have living here? Almost 18 million or something.
Almost
So
18, yeah.
yeah, I mean, we're not the only organization trying to achieve something. Um, so basically, what you have to do is you have to keep continuing. You have to keep on fighting the good fight. And because you're not, we're not doing this for ourselves, but we're doing this for those professionals, whether veterans or active personnel in aviation, armed forces, or police. So we just keep on doing that. But sometimes a door opens, and that's when you get to have a meeting or a talk or a phone call, and that has happened in these past few years.
Right.
But of course, what was really historical, what was happened yesterday.
What happened?
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I had the opportunity to go to our democratic heart here in the Netherlands, in The Hague, the Dutch Parliament, and
Yes.
it was a Saturday. So a lot of politicians, they're working, but they're not in Parliament because the meetings are not
Right.
going on. But I just wanted to see. Okay, so I had the opportunity to go, and I wanted to see. Is there anybody there? Is there a member of parliament or maybe members of parliament that I can speak to about the UAP topic? So I arrived there, and I was having a cup of tea and just looking around, and I saw a member of parliament, Mr. Nico Drost, and I walked up to him and I started having a conversation about the UAP topic. And
Right.
what I found out was he's a really nice guy, an intelligent guy. He works really hard, and he was genuinely interested. And the good thing is also that he is a member of the Armed Forces Committee.
Right.
So this was even more special. And what I basically did was I explained to him what UAPs were and that we've been waiting for, well, not we, but the professionals have been waiting for 44 years since the Soesterberg incident
Right.
for a protocol and a reporting mechanism for professionals. And so I also gave him a letter that I prepared, and he was willing to read the letter and go over it this week and possibly discuss it in the Committee of the Armed Forces.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
then it even became more interesting because I had the opportunity to actually go into the room where they have all the meetings, which is the plenary room. I don't know if that translation is correct, but anyway, it's where
Right.
all the members of parliament have their big debates. And
Right.
so I was able to ask a question and extend an invitation to the people there.
Right. Okay. So that's quite something. You got to address real politicians in Dutch court, and you even got a listening ear, which is quite rare, I guess. If you just go to Parliament and somebody is willing to listen to someone talking UAP.
Yeah.
So you have been addressing multiple organizations, even our defense forces. Now, the Soesterberg case, which is the most compelling case I guess we've ever had in our country, and possibly top 10 worldwide, because of the 12 witnesses, which is quite rare. People seeing the same UFO or the UAP at the same time under the same circumstances, which is incredibly important for proof. But what feedback did you ever get from our defense forces whenever you tried to reach out to them and see if there was something they could share with the general public? Because I've tried, and they have addressed to me, yes, we have noticed, and they would call it not UFO or UAP, they would call it unknown in our Dutch skies, but they wouldn't disclose, whatever it was or what they were doing about it. So what was the feedback you got?
So the feedback I got was similar to yours, but maybe a little bit more. Uh, uh, like you said, objects of unknown origin or
Origins, yeah.
type
Yeah.
in Dutch airspace. But the Dutch airspace, because we're working together with other countries,
Hmm.
because our airspace is fairly, compared to other countries, small. So
Very.
yeah, so we're working together, and what they told me, what the Department of Defense, when I spoke to a representative of the Department of Defense several times, and what this person told me is that they simply do not have the budget to actually find out what it is and do research. Now, the good thing is that last year, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, they upped the budget because of the terrible war between
Yeah, the
Ukraine
defense
and Russia.
budget in general was upped enormously. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, what I found interesting was that the Netherlands bought several F-35 uh,
True.
jets.
Mm.
So the sensors on those F-35 jets, I mean, you can buy the jets, but then you also have to buy
The
the
technology.
the systems which accompany those jets.
Yeah.
So the sensors and everything else has gotten better. Now, of course, we don't know as citizens what else they've been buying and doing, and how that technology the technology that we have at the moment works. But
Right.
we know for sure that because of it's high tech, they can detect more. So the our position is really simple. We get to detect more UAPs. That chance will go up, especially if we're working
Yeah.
together with other countries.
Yeah.
So we also need to have a protocol in place and reporting mechanisms for the professionals who want to report something.
Right.
And in this country, have been the politicians are talking a lot about, we need to include every citizen. That's important. So
Yeah.
if that's important, we need to also take everybody seriously, and especially the people who have had the training. So the professionals in the aviation,
Yeah. Our
armed
servicemen.
forces, police, they put so much money in educating those people that
Yeah.
you need to have things in
Well,
place.
well, I do know, of course, that I think it was the Dutch aviation pilots, like yeah, regular Dutch pilots, like KLM or whatever.
Yeah,
They were actually pretty much the first regular pilots who stepped up and talked about what they saw in their cockpits. And I've had them on the show actually,
yeah,
talking about what they saw, and what was quite incredible because it was cool because it wasn't just one. I had three
yeah. I know.
like regular
Taco,
pilots, and
Mark, and yeah,
the lady, and which was
yeah,
also cool, like to have a female pilot. But
yeah,
Milou, sorry.
yeah,
But then I okay, I'm going to disclose. I have a military buddy. We used to fly, let's say, a military air vehicle. I can't, and he did a couple of tours, Afghanistan, da, 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 da. But yeah, he said, yeah, we don't really talk about that stuff a lot. And also, he said, well, we really haven't seen anything in particular. But the cool thing about it is that Dutch pilots are willing and vocal to talk about this. So I do think Holland is quite kind of a pioneer in a lot of stuff, right? So, for example, whenever there's elections in Europe, Holland is pretty much the benchmark for what the rest of Western Europe is going to vote, left, right, etc. But for some reason, I have a feeling, people like you, Joachim, who are willing to poke the bear a little bit in Parliament and see what is going to come out. Um, it is going to make the difference. So, what would be for you the biggest gain for your work right now or in the future to accomplish to have accomplished at some point?
Good question. And I would have to say, at this moment, that would be the same what the United States has done for their professionals.
Right.
So that when they, uh, you know, the people working over there have on the UAP topic have done a tremendous amount of work, and the people who have been willing to come forward because they believed in their heart that they needed to do that. That's I can only have the utmost respect for that.
Right.
Um so the ultimate goal at this moment in time during this interview would especially be if the Netherlands would have a protocol and reporting mechanisms for our professionals,
Yeah.
and that our professionals, by having that in place, would feel comfortable to come forward so we can have an open dialogue, not discussion, but
Right.
dialogue. That's important
Sure.
about UAPs, whatever they are, wherever they come from. It doesn't matter. For example, what we learned from the past week, we had the China balloon, then we had the Alaska incident, we had the Canadian incident. Now today, the National Security Advisor of the United States, Mr. Sullivan, said so they were all balloons. Now, today I heard that something was happening over Lake Michigan, something was happening in China, something was happening in Uruguay. And whatever all these things are, it doesn't matter because we need to be able for people to come forward and tell, okay, this is going on and I want to explain what I saw, or we see something in our airspace, we don't know what it is, we need to find out, or we need to, even before it enters our airspace, we need to find out what it is. So we need to work more together, and that's what you're
Yeah.
seeing is like today, United States working together with Canada. That's what the Netherlands is doing with Germany and Belgium and Great
Right.
Britain, and so everybody's starting to work more together because
It's official.
UAPs
It's
are,
official. Yeah, it's official. Justin Trudeau actually, he's cooperating with the U.S. Forces now, right? So
yeah,
that's huge. That really doesn't happen in UAP stuff. You see, yeah, U.S. address the island mentality
yeah,
over here. Look, this is what goes on a mondial scale. Like I've talked about this with I think it was Paolo Guisardi the other day, that like governments do not talk about strange shit they see in their skies with each other, But for Holland, and especially when we talk about the Soesterberg case and the Belgian triangle armada, this was a phenomenon that was, of course, observed in our skies, but the governments weren't cooperating. There was one incident, I think the Dutch and the Belgians at the same time chased the same UAP at some point in the 90s, but that
yeah.
that is a unique little incident. But what you're saying is so true, that the Americans and the Canadians are now cooperating and putting their heads together and see what the hell. Sorry, gonna get demonetized now. What the hell this is?
Yeah, and UAPs are like the wind. They don't care about borders. Whatever a UAP is, you know. It, so it whatever they are, it doesn't matter. But they're like the wind; they don't care about borders. So we need to work together. But in order to work together, we need the data and we need the people to start coming forward who have seen something, whether they are veteran or retired or active, it doesn't matter. But we need to make our governments, and I'm especially saying governments because we're you have an international audience. We need to let
Plural.
our yeah we we need our governments to know that they need to work together and they need to start taking their professionals seriously. And that's
Yeah,
what and that's what our small organization is trying to do in the Netherlands. And who knows where this is going to end up in 10 years or in 5 years or but it's a
yeah,
mission that we took upon ourselves, and we're not going to stop until we achieved our goals, or that it's satisfactory that that the professionals are taken care of. Because aviation, for example, pilots in the aviation, they can report if there's a dangerous situation. Of course, there are forms for that. But if they just see something which they cannot explain, how are they gonna,
yeah,
and it's the same with the armed forces. Uh, you know, we have because we were active, the Dutch armed forces were active in several wars.
yeah.
Bosnia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Mali in Africa. So, and the world is a big place, but I cannot imagine being a professional and coming home and not being able to talk to my superiors or to anybody else about this
Anyone
without
really?
being
Yeah.
without being laughed at, or I that's
Well, yeah,
ridiculous.
no, well,
Just
that
the
happened to the
idea
guy.
in your head that can happen is ridiculous.
Look, look, it happened to the Soesterberg guys, right? The 12
Yeah,
witnesses. They were ridiculed. They were ridiculed.
yeah, yeah,
There were 12 guys who observed the same damn thing, and
yeah,
when they did their story, they were ridiculed by their peers, sometimes even by their friends and relatives, which made
yeah,
them very, very hesitant to do their story. And same thing when I was interviewing the Dutch airline pilots. They said, yeah, look, I think two of them were about to retire or just retired, and that is why they did their story. That is why they told the story. And actually, the lady Milou, she was still an active pilot, but she was also kind of hesitant because, whenever they tell about these things they observe flying, and you talk to your superior, that guy can, if he takes a wrong turn, he can just stigmatize you as a nutcase or not classified or not eligible to fly anymore. This can happen to you. You can literally commit career suicide if you talk about that stuff. And this is not just Holland. This is uh, everywhere. So it's very, very um, important to and what you are trying to accomplish, make a platform for people, maybe even anonymously, report whatever they're seeing in the skies professionally,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. The protocol that needs to be in place is either anonymous or just as long as we can gather data. Now that's not up to
Right.
my organization to gather that data. They need to be
No.
able to do that within their own organization, within the police force, within the armed forces, within aviation,
Sure.
whatever airline they're flying
Yeah.
for, it doesn't matter. They need to be able to do that. And
Right.
of course, if the UIP coalition, we have ambassadorship. So if if professionals want to join, they can, and that way they can, other professionals who want to speak to people in their own field of expertise, they can talk to each other, because it's so incredibly important to be able to, how do you say this in English? When you
Say it
have
in Dutch.
something
I'll
on your
translate.
mind, yeah. When when
Yeah.
when something's in your heart, it weighs heavy on your shoulders if you cannot speak to somebody.
Right,
So,
right,
you
right.
know, if you can speak to somebody who, of course you can, speak to your wife, your husband, or, whatever, but it's important to also have to be able to talk to somebody who knows what it's like, to go outside the
Yeah,
wire of your base in Afghanistan, to go out, in the past, because we're not in Afghanistan anymore. But anyway, or, what it's like to fly on a 30,000 feet with 300 passengers in the back, and, yeah, things like that. It's important to have those people
right.
to talk to. So that's why we have the ambassadorship, and that's why am really happy that there are more and more people like you who are doing the podcasts, and they're having the interviews with the pilots coming forward, with the people with experiences coming forward. But
Yeah.
once again, and
And
I
by the
cannot
way,
stress,
Joachim,
yeah,
please tell people about your organization. You can follow UAP Coalition Holland or UAP
yeah.
Coalition on Twitter,
I
right?
don't know how that works because I'm not very technical with all the social media, but maybe you can put it in a link
I'm gonna
somewhere.
put it in the I'm gonna
Uh,
put it in the comments right here. So it's gonna be
it's
so it was
it is
yeah,
so let me say this in Dutch. So just
sure, yeah,
it's
sure.
Twitter is at UAP Coalitie NL.
All right. I just put it in the
That's
comments.
that's the Twitter. If the people want to know the website, it's in Dutch, but they can use Google Translate, which is really easy nowadays. And that's
Yeah.
UAP Coalitie Nederland.nl.
All right. All right. Okay. So I see the people in the comments say that the connection is not great. I'll explain why. My internet is out, so I'm actually hotspotting this stream. So it might not be very. It could like buffer or whatever, but I hope you guys can still follow the conversation. Just let me know if it's horrible for you guys to watch. But please continue, Joachim.
No, uh, I don't even know where to start or to end because the topic is so interesting, and it's just so necessary that we do this not like islands but all together. And that's
Right.
just one of the, but everybody with their
Let's
own,
talk. Yeah, let's talk.
yeah.
Let's talk about um, current events a little bit because this thing it doesn't happen a lot that something um, like the Alaska case we just where we're reading about gets such a international exposure on CNN, etc., and people are kind of the whole world is looking at this, because it isn't very mainstream that the American or the Canadian government comes out and they're saying there's something in the skies we shut down because they shut down something and now they're collecting the debris, which is very exciting. I'm so stoked on the. I hope they're going to tell whatever they found. But I'll bet my butt on it that if it's something that is, let's say technologically unknown to the Americans or the Canadians, they're not gonna share this publicly. But it's very very important that this is addressed the way it was addressed in international news. They say we shut something down that wasn't known to us. And of course, the other day we had the Chinese balloon, which was a Chinese balloon, so we know what that is. But let's say there was something shut down, and I won't believe they are going to address it as we don't know what the hell this was. We shut it down. If it were something that was known, so what are your thoughts about this?
Well, like I said earlier, I I saw a few hours ago that ABC News had an interview, and um, with Mr. Schumer. I don't know. I can't remember his exact position within the U.S. government, but he was briefed by the National Security Advisor, Mr. Sullivan, and Mr. Sullivan said that that all three of them were balloons. So the first one last week we knew it was a balloon because it was like the size of three buses, gigantic. People were taking pictures from the ground, and it was
Like a
just
Zeppelin or something.
yeah, it was huge. And then the one
That's what
above
she said.
Alaska, yeah, and then the one from Canada. So, but there's just at that point in time, there's just so many stories coming out. And it's just really hard to see what is the data. And so, if they are balloons, if all of them are balloons, then of course it's important that they will gather the data and all that stuff. But
Right.
the news coverage is huge for the UAP topic
Sure.
because it shows, and it just really shows that we 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 really need to start learning, and we're already learning a lot, but there's still just a lot to figure out, and there are still a lot of unanswered questions remain. Because okay, so there was an interview that said, which was on CNN, and it said, yeah, the pilots saw an object which was a cylinder, and it was just hanging there on what was like 30 or 40,000 feet. When I read that, I was like, okay, so it's a cylinder and it's just doing nothing there. How is it staying in position? And those pilots, well, in the interview said that they did not know what it was. They could not, they couldn't identify it. So I'm like, okay, so here you are, and I don't know if they were F-22s or F-35s, but those pilots, they are trained, and I mean
Right.
highly trained. So if those guys with all the sensors available to them and their eyes and whatever, they have no idea what it is, then okay, then you better believe them because it seriously
Yeah.
you don't know what it is. And still, if Mr. Sullivan said that they were balloons, so okay, they were balloons, but that there are so many other cases that are not um, identifiable, like Commander Fravor, who came forward,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the characteristics of the UAP he saw with his wingman or wingwoman. I don't know if it was a male or female. I don't know. Anyway, so
It was a
but
female actually.
yeah, those cases are
And
still not.
Dietrich.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
those cases are still not identified, but the news coverage is important because it shows the politicians that okay, there is something in our airspace and we have no idea what it is. So then we better start spending some money to find out what it is, or we don't spend any money and we try to figure out if the processes who are in place or the technology that we're using needs to be changed. And that's what
Right.
happened, for example, that from what I understand is that they changed the filters on some of the sensors, and that's how they started seeing more objects in the sky. Now, I don't know
Okay.
how that works technically because I'm not a technician, but the
Watch out. Mick West
algorithms.
is watching. Mick West
Uh,
is watching.
who who is Mick West?
Oh, he's like the biggest critic of UAP. He's notorious among UFO guys because
Okay. Well,
he debunks about everything, but he doesn't do a very good job most of the time. But but for
oh,
some
it's
reason
it's
you have to take him seriously because sometimes he's actually right. So
well, it's good to have critics.
Of course.
because if we don't have critics, there's only one narrative, and then we would all be like sheep, going over the cliff.
Look,
And
though, look, I'm
yeah,
I'm gonna be completely honest. Like, we need people like Mick West because it's
yeah,
so easy to go down the rabbit hole. You have to always have people doubting things, right? This is something that is so important because it's if you it's really easy to, like, if you're a guy, and it's, to me, like, obvious there has to be life outside of our universe. So you kind of hope this is true. So whenever something shows itself or turns up, you are sometimes, if you it's there's a little bit of a case of wishful thinking going on. It's like you want to believe it,
yeah,
but you always have to doubt it. It always has to be go along with data, footage,
yeah,
um, witnesses. It has to be a smoking gun in court. That's how
yeah.
you have to approach it.
When you have to gather the data, well, there are a few steps. First, we have to be able to gather data. And the only reason, and the only way we're going to do that is by listening to the professionals and to also have our technology assist us in that. And
Yeah,
and after that, we can start finding out what's going on and whatever that may be. So it can be something really simple, but we just have the lack of understanding at the moment, or it can be something really complicated, like you said.
yeah,
But everything from a scientific view has to remain on the table until we have enough data to, like you said, um, write off one and then move on to the other.
yeah. Check mark.
And yeah, check marks. Yeah, and the United States so far has done a great job for their professionals. Brazil is doing similar things. Uruguay, but countries like China, who are using artificial intelligence to gather through that data,
Yeah.
that's and yeah.
Well, we
One of
should
the other
check out
things.
what we should check out. Like, about a year ago, had a great podcast. Elizondo and Mellon were cooperating with the Galileo project, and this is something I think is important for you because you said it's important that UAP should be studied within our military organizations or space organizations, etc. But what's
Broad. It
going on
should be
here?
broad. Not
Yeah,
it.
but
It
what's
it should
going on
not be
here? It's
narrowed. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no. What's going on with the Galileo project? It's just Harvard scientists, coming together, using their brains, their science to actually, on a public scale, try to investigate what the hell this is. But they get like a little shove from the military, like, look in that direction, or that is kind of what is going on. But of course they cannot disclose anything that can compromise homeland security or whatever.
Mhm.
But I think it's very important that, and this is actually a question to you. Look, if you are going to lobby for a research department within the Dutch forces, they're probably not going to be able to, let's say, share everything. But if you have a independent research organization like the Galileo project, it's going to be transparent, though.
Yeah. The way I see it is that from a governmental point of view, they can never have 100% transparency
No.
because of the systems that they're using. Uh, what we're seeing right now with the war in Ukraine is
Right.
that what if we had 100% transparency on the technology of our military? You know the yeah, that would have been a problem. But the way I see it is is this. This is a really good example. In the field of
Right.
medicine, in the past, a doctor, if you would have to go to the hospital, a doctor would have had, like for example, if you would go to a doctor who specializes in airways and lungs, breathing,
Right.
that doctor would uh, have to learn about, cancer, autoimmune diseases, all kinds of things going on in your airways and your lungs. Now, and what you
Yeah.
see now in the field of medicine is that the doctors are focusing on one area, uh, on one field of expertise. And that's what I
Right.
see with the UAP topic as well. You have to have expertise from different, it has to be multi, um, yeah, you have to have multiple disciplines together in a team. So
Yeah. 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 So
it
yeah,
cannot
you
only
approach it
be.
scientifically, military.
Yeah, you cannot
Yeah.
only have like, okay, so it cannot only be a research department from the Air Force. No, it cannot, because you will have people from the Navy as well, and you will have people from aviation, and you will
Yeah.
have people from, like NASA. But of course, the Netherlands doesn't have an organization as big as NASA, but the people the
We
astronomers, you
have
need to
one
have them.
astronaut.
Yeah. Well, Wubbo, of
Well, we
course,
used
in the
to. We used
past.
to.
But
Kuipers and Wubbo. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah. But we it needs to be a multi specialism team, and
Mm.
how they do it with transparency. Of course, you need to inform the public, like the United States is doing now, like Brazil has been doing. Just tell them what's going on, but you cannot tell them everything because of the technology that you're using, because of other
Yeah. Can
countries who want to,
compromise security, right? Yeah.
yeah, who want to take advantage of it. So
Sure.
it's a fine line that you have to walk, but it has to be multi-specialism. You have to have
Well.
multiple organizations working together, and that's that working together again. And that's the same, and that's the same with the politics. This
Yeah.
this topic is not about conservative or liberal, or it doesn't matter. This is all of us. So,
Yeah.
and that's why I enjoy seeing what's going on in the United States. That
For sure.
politicians are, they're ascending above the political views for one common goal, and I
Well,
hope
look.
that they do that here
They
as well.
Yeah, but they have been pretty much, let's say, powerless on like finding out what UAP sometimes in the skies is, right? Because and this is why some of the let's say people who are alarming the rest of the world, like Lou Elizondo, is like, yeah, guys, we don't know what this is. This should be something we can talk about. For example, of course, Bob Lazar, right?
I saw
Bob
the
Lazar.
interview on a Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was
Did
very
you see the
interesting to hear that.
documentary? Did you see the
No, I didn't know
documentary
that.
Jeremy Corbell made?
No, no, I didn't know there was a documentary.
Which what was very interesting about what Bob Lazar did, he was one of the scientists who was working in Area 50, what was it, 51, 54? But it was actually S4, which is 50 miles outside of Area 51. And that was the place where they would test new aerial technology. But Lazar was one of the scientists with a secret, how do you call this,
Security
investigation,
clearance.
security clearance, who was the his words was back engineering a UAP, right? Which means for people who haven't heard about back engineering ever, it's like taking apart your dad's radio and see what the hell is inside and figure out how this thing works. But Lazar, was like he was destroyed. Like they would ridicule him by his peers by the military. The guy even he, he was lost. Like his diplomas disappeared from the systems. Like they just made everything about him just disappear, and whatever he was saying was you know they made it like he was telling fairy tales. But the things he was actually addressing now, 2 3 decades later, turns out that, let's say, now we know that 85% of whatever he was telling was true. First they denied there was a S4. Then they denied they were working with a what was the material, a certain material that they found in UAPs. Um, they disclosed they had it a couple of years ago, and he was already talking about it 20, 30 years ago. So Bob Lazar wasn't full of poo poo. He was, saying a lot of things that turned out to be true. Now, Bob Lazar also said that he saw 9 UAPs. He said he saw a extraterrestrial, actually, at some point. But yeah, yeah, that is something we need to take into account, that whatever people are willing to release with danger for their own careers or whatever, let's not disqualify them immediately.
Yeah, time will tell about Mr. Lazar. It's interesting to hear. I will look up the documentary because I haven't seen
You
it yet.
should.
So I
Yeah, you
I
should.
I
You
I,
should.
I just saw the podcast. But
Right.
if it's true what Mr. Lazar says, then it's world changing. And if it's not, it's not. But still, you know, listen to the man and how do you say this in English? Laat hem in zijn waarde. Uh,
Yeah. Don't judge him
yeah, yeah.
by.
Don't,
Yeah.
yeah. Just uh, I mean, there are people nowadays who shout all kinds of things, and if that's their reality, if they believe that, then okay, I respect you. It's your reality. I will not attack you on because
Well,
that's
Lazar
what you
Lazar
believe
is an
in.
interesting story. Lazar is a very interesting story because he made the stage to Joe Rogan, which is basically, yeah, like, if you get on Rogan, there is something going on, right? And it was because of Jeremy Corbell's documentary. But the thing with Lazar was, because they took away everything he had to actually be able to live a normal life. If you don't have your degrees anymore, if you don't, if you're not able to, oh, thank you, element. This is the element I was trying to talk about. What Lazar actually was working with. Nobody believed, and now it turns out to be true. Element 115.
Do
Thank
you
you,
mean
Max and Robbie.
an element on the periodic table?
No, it's an element, like a propulsion, like a
Oh,
fuel, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, because I'm not sure.
okay. Yeah.
But I think it was that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But the thing was, with Lazar. Okay, so he didn't have a bank account. He didn't have any degrees anymore. Like, on paper, the guy didn't exist anymore. They just deleted everything. But um, I'm pretty sure, they tried to destroy him, because the guy eventually he started a brothel to make some money, and that, of course, wasn't very good for his appearance, and they yeah. But the guy had to make a buck, I guess.
Yeah, but that's terrible if but the government did that to him or
Well, well, Lazar had to make a living at some point. Look, the guy was a bona fide scientist. He actually put a jet engine into his car and made it work. And that, look, I'm not,
Oh
I
my
kid you not.
goodness.
No, he did that. He did that. He like
Oh boy.
converted. I think it was a Mustang or something. Put a jet engine in it, and that is how he would go to work. Now, can you just picture that, like with a flaming thing, like just going?
Oh my goodness.
Now, the guy was
Yeah.
a brilliant scientist. You know what mofo can get a jet engine to work in your goddamn car? Look, it's pretty impressive.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah. But a lot of things are happening, Max,
Yeah,
and that's good. The news coverage again today. I hope that, and the last several days. I hope that the politicians will pick this up, and the key decision makers in government around the world, and that they start taking action on what needs to be done if there's not already
for
something
sure.
in place, which is
By the
which is
way,
not in most countries.
by the way, you know about ICER, right? ICER,
Yeah,
the European UFO
yeah,
investigation organization.
yeah.
Well, there's not a Dutch dependance yet. So Joachim, I think this is a task perfectly uh, for you, perfect for you. Would you like?
Well,
Maybe you should.
at the moment, the entire team is busy with our coalition, and we're focusing on the things that are happening here in the Netherlands. So maybe in the future, but we're always open to speaking to them. But I haven't been in touch with them yet.
Yeah, I think it was a UFO themed brothel, J. Allen Heineken.
Oh,
But
nice
we'll,
name.
we'll never know. We'll never know.
Yeah.
So on that note, guys, I think we are gonna say goodbye to you guys. We've talked about current events, and please support Joachim. Follow his Twitter handle, and especially the Dutch people. We should support our investigation domestically and see whatever comes out. On that note, I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys in the chat feed. Joachim, do you have any last words?
Yeah, I also want to thank the audience tonight, whether you're from the Netherlands or other countries. And I just, if you're, whatever you're doing within the UAP topic, keep fighting the good fight. Don't act like an island and ascend above your political views and just work together to achieve whatever you want to achieve within the UAP topic. And let's make sure that our professionals are being taken seriously. And yeah, eventually we'll find out what those UAPs are. And thank you, Max, for the
Yes,
opportunity to speak about this and introduce the coalition and everything. So it was really
of
nice again.
course, of course. You're doing great work, and that should get some attention, a lot of attention. So please, guys, support Joachim in any way you can. And on that note, let me say good night. Joachim, stick around. We're gonna chat a little bit more in
I
the
will.
back studio.